All right, Adrian, tell us a little bit about what your life was like before you knew Christ.
Actually, I was born in Ketchikan, and then my first 10 years I grew up in Hawaii, and we were going to church all the time then, and I remember those being the happiest times of my life, really. And then we moved to the mainland, and a couple years later my parents were going through a divorce, and my stepdad, I didn't actually know my real dad, but there was violence between him and my mom, and we went to California to live with my grandparents. And I found out while I was there that I would never know my real father because I was a raped child, and ended up back home, and my mom had remarried, and there was sexual abuse, and I was in a really bad relationship, and a boyfriend that literally wanted me dead, and he's actually now in prison for killing his last girlfriend, so dodged that bullet. But sexual abuse with my stepfather at that time, and my mother called me a liar, and I left home at 16 and moved across the country, got my GED at 17, started working as a pharmacy tech for quite a few years, went to pharmacy college for 2 years, runaway brided, poor man, and had a son, and everything was pretty good up until then, but with all that knowledge of medications and things like that, and being started on antidepressants, it was just kind of like the beginning of a really rough path. But throughout the rest of my life, there was a lot of imbalance, and I am a total fight or flight person, and as the years went on, it was a lot more fights before the flight, and myself being violent, and stuffing my feelings, and divorce, and ended up getting along with my mom again, and she got to be close with my son, and I got married again, got divorced again, got 2 degrees somehow while I was doing that and working in surgery. And yeah, that second divorce, couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, more abusive relationships, ended up back in Alaska, and decided to do a DNA test, and found my grandmother and an aunt, and they figured out who my dad was, and I met him. And none of them could figure out why my mother had told me that, as they were together for 2 years. And my grandmother actually had pictures of me growing up. So when I asked my mother about it, she again said I was a liar. And I haven't talked to her since. And I got off the medications that were there when I needed to be happy, or needed to sleep, or needed to be awake, or just wanted fun. And I finally quit those, and then the drinking got bad and took that place of it, and it was just downhill, more arrests, violence, and yeah, it was rough.
Ooh. You're doing great. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us. People are going to be touched by your story. Okay, so on a happier note, tell us a little bit about your encounter with Jesus.
I had basically lost everything. I was on my 3rd divorce, and he was going to leave Alaska, and I still wanted to try and work things out with him. He kind of did too, and he asked if I was going to go with him, and I said, I'm actually going to go to treatment on the advice from my nurse practitioner and therapist, and managed to get into a faith-based residential treatment center after fighting to get there, basically, from health concerns, breast cancer scare, hip cancer scare, being so sick that they couldn't even clear me to go there, and finally I made it, and just all these little things just started tying together and circling around, and just little quotes that stuck with me. And a friend of mine who's very spiritual and religious, and I've known since I was a junior in high school, she said that that was God talking to me. And I decided I wanted to be successful and started attending church, and Pastor Daniel spoke a prophetic word over me, and it wasn't even what I was going up to pray about, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. And then I was here for transformations, and I had wanted to be closer to Christ, and he was praying over me, and he was in tears, and I was in tears, and then you came over and helped pray over me, and it just all started to feel comfortable, and I wanted to be successful and had a goal finally.
I love that. Thank you. So since then, what you been up to? What's God been doing in your life?
I left treatment early. It was my 90 days sober, and I had only been in treatment for I think almost just under 3 months, but didn't graduate. But I kind of feel like that was a test. The situation I was in was just, it didn't feel right, and again, like, the anger and hurt was just coming back, and I didn't feel like it was the best place for me, and I left and prayed and was so scared. I didn't feel like I was ready, but I managed to get a hold of you and Sandra and my sponsor at the time, and please, she's still my sponsor.
I am.
And I prayed and prayed and prayed, and everything else that was going on, and other people involved, and it all just worked out. And I feel like I was saved and I was spared, and it's helping me to stay on this path. And I'm just so loud now about my journey, because I wish beforehand that I knew of others that had fought that fight. And I want them to know that there are others out there that feel it, and I want to give, and I want to help, and I want other people to see the pretty little things that are there in life, and I want to share it. And I feel like if I go back, that all my suffering that I thought that I went through is nothing compared to what Christ went through to save me. So, yeah, I'm just gonna keep going.
Praise God.